Hello everybody, this is Amanda. How are you doing? Today is the 2nd of January 2019 and I am coming to you to do a video on the fires in Australia. They feel as though they are the most pressing thing on the agenda at the moment that Metatron wants me to be talking about. So I'm putting this video before the more general one for January 2020. I firstly want to give a shout out to all of my Australian followers and friends, of which there are many, and want you to know that I send an awful lot of strength and love your way. What's been basically happening is that for the last week or so, maybe longer than a week, I have been feeling into the energy of what is not just behind these fires, but what is the higher spiritual message really from them. And now, just because we talk about a higher spiritual message doesn't mean that we don't acknowledge the pain and suffering and the extreme challenge that is being faced down on the ground at earthly level. And this is where I feel my guide, Archangel Metatron, is going to really be able to help us to acknowledge the suffering that is taking place in communities, in families, in towns, amongst the wildlife, amongst nature, but also help us to see a higher perspective in terms of why these events are happening. So I've got quite a bit to say, and I'm just going to go for it, okay? I'm not quite sure in what order this is all going to come out. I am going to be talking about Uluru. I'm going to be talking and channeling a little bit of Kali, the goddess, who is linked to fire. I'm going to be mentioning Scott Morrison and his response. I'm going to talk about island mentality. And I'm going to talk about... I think I'll start with the first piece of information that was basically given to me, which is a need for some collective healing, obviously, which can be done wherever you are around the world, to send in the water dragons, to send in the element of water to places that are parched. I believe that Australia has been facing a substantial drought for a number of months, which have obviously exacerbated this. The other thing to say is, of course, there are other things that may very well have contributed to these fires starting and spreading. And although we can acknowledge maybe some of what that may be, it doesn't take away from the fact that we still need to look at it from a higher perspective. So whether you believe it is the result of climate change, whether you believe it is the result of government incompetence, whether you believe it is the result of fracking, whether you believe it is the result of interference with natural weather patterns or weaponry used to bring about elemental disturbances, or maybe linked into not having, cleared the forests in some shape or form. I've no idea whether that's true or not. It's just something I heard somebody say today, actually. It doesn't really help at this particular juncture, because at this particular juncture, it's about trying to bring balance and equilibrium back to a part of the world that is, I'm hearing the words, first to reveal its new colours. That doesn't mean that the new colours of Australia are going to be always symbolised by fire and burning. It's interesting. I don't know if you just heard that. That was the door being opened and closed on the wood burner downstairs. I'm right above it, so you can sometimes hear the noise from the fire. Felt very symbolic, that, like closing, because what I'm really trying to say is that I believe that Australia is the first in a chain of a wave, basically, a wave of energy that is going to sweep from east to west, starting now in 2020. Isn't all happening this year. I'm actually hearing is happening throughout the 20s, the 2020s, this coming decade. Isn't all about fire, but it can take the form of Gaia, Mother Earth, doing her thing to cast off the old, to literally, like the snake that sheds its skin, lets go of the old energy. And fire is one way through which purification can happen. Another way is via water and flooding. Another way is through the air. In fact, to be honest, all of the elementals will come into play. And it doesn't have to be as dramatic as what's happening in Australia, but where there are places around the world where the energy needs to particularly be rebirthed, maybe linked into some of the chakra points in that particular country, which aren't just about the country, they're about the new earth, then we are going to be seeing dramatic things happening. And I actually looked back on a video that I made last March. So in March 2019, I did a video, and I think it's called Out with the Old. It's called Australia, Out with the Old. I'll put the link below. I think it was primarily looking at the election that was to come. So we were talking about some of the leaders. I did look at Scott Morrison as an example. But towards the end of that video, I think it's from about an hour onwards, I started to get this channeled message about the fact that the new earth, which is global, will sweep in from east to west. And by east, I'm talking about the eastern side of the world. So Australia was one of the particular places where this wave starts. And it will move from east to west. And as it does so, the old skin of old earth will be taken away and purged, I'm hearing. And in its place will come some much more tender skin, which will need to be tended and treated gently, which symbolises the new era that we're moving into. Now, I'm sort of quite surprised it's happening quite as quickly as it has started. The other thing that I was shown very, very clearly by Archangel Metatron about a week ago, I'll tell you the way the vision started coming, was the first vision I saw was when I just tuned into what's going on with Australia and all these fires. I was shown a pyramid. And I thought, okay, pyramid, all right, I'm being shown a pyramid. What does that mean? Well, we know that the pyramid and the tetrahedron are linked into the element of fire. Okay, so I've got one here, for example, linked into the element of fire. And it also links into the solar plexus within the human body, but also within the collective consciousness. From seeing the fiery pyramid, I was then shown the Merkaba. Now, the Merkaba is made up of two tetrahedrons that link together. And at the moment, Australia is basically in a phase where it's just about the fire. It's about the solar plexus energy being activated, not just for that country, but for the whole world. And it's as though there's a pulsing pyramid, a pulsing tetrahedron. Now, when the process has finished, and by that I'm talking about the fires start to die down, and that's not going to happen in the next few days, it's going to take as long as it takes for the power center of the new earth to come back online is what I'm hearing, okay? It's literally got to come back online, because although it's been there, it's been only operating at 50% capacity. It's got to come back up to 100%. So the fires are burning off the old to make way for the new, but equally we've got this pulsing tetrahedron energy in the centre of Australia, or what I'm being shown symbolically is the centre of Australia. Now this of course links into Uluru, used to be called Ayers Rock. Those of us outside of Australia do still call it Ayers Rock, so apologies for that, but I'm just giving it both names so people know what I'm talking about, because I'm being shown that Uluru Ayers Rock is what I'm being shown as this pulsing tetrahedron cannon of new energy that is being charged at this time. And I then started to realise, of course, that, hold on a minute, isn't it only weeks since the climbing ban was introduced? So you are now no longer able to climb up upon it and effectively desecrate it, because that's what was happening. It was being desecrated by people who weren't respecting it. And so now you are no longer able to do that. And I believe a lot of the elders and the Aboriginal people, the Indigenous people, have been doing a lot of work to, I guess, reconsecrate it. And I believe this is an ongoing thing. This is what I'm being told. It's an ongoing thing, this reconsecration, if that is such a word, of this holy, sacred place. So that is happening. But since it literally is, it's since I wonder what the chronology is actually, because I wonder when the fiercest fires started, because it feels to me as though even if they were around whilst people were still able to climb Uluru, it feels as though they escalated after it stopped. And it seems as though it's tied in with, after the climbing stopped, the powerhouse, the battery, the core sacral and solar plexus energy that is there. I'm almost wanting to say all three lower chakras actually, and I don't know if people always talk about all three lower chakras linked into Uluru, but I'm feeling it's not just the solar plexus, although that was the first one I was being shown, but it's symptomatic of the new earth coming back online, but starting deep within the base. So that's the first thing that I was shown, okay? And what I can say to that is that if what I've just said resonates with you and you think, yeah, that makes sense or that feels right to me, what I'm now being shown is that this is a natural process that you cannot either escalate or reduce in terms of how quickly is it all going to be over with. Because when it is all over with and Uluru, i.e. this pulsing sort of tetrahedron type energy, because I'm being shown it as a mountain basically, is fully charged, the next part that I see happening, which is not happening yet, is that the other tetrahedron energy comes down and it will be at Uluru, and we form a it's not a fifth dimensional Merkaba, it's much, much higher than that. It's a very, very high frequency Merkaba energy, and it will start to spin in the centre of Australia. And from that, and if you know what the Merkaba is, and I'm just looking to see if I've got anything here that I can show you. I don't know if I've actually got one to hand. Yes, I have. Here we go. So this is effectively what's being built in the centre of Australia energetically. A Merkaba. So at the moment you've got you've just got the tetrahedron. This is what's being fired up at the moment. But what will happen is then you'll get the downward pointing one coming to create the Merkaba. If you don't understand what I'm talking about in terms of Merkaba, I've done other videos on this, just go back and watch it. And from that pulsing energetic space, you'll see that there are all these corners on a Merkaba, and this will almost like shoot off into other parts of the planet, other places, east to west, north to south. It's like the biggest battery that you've ever seen in your life coming back online, and it starts in Australia, okay? And because it is so important for the wider world, these fires, and as I say, it's very, very sad and devastating at an earthly level, are necessary to clear the land there of anything that it's holding that is of that doesn't match the vibration that wants to come in. Now this leads me to my second point, which is the next thing that Metatron showed me was, I can't remember how this came about, guys. How did this come about? Oh, that's right. He showed me Botany Bay. Okay, he showed me Botany Bay in Australia. And I've never been to Australia. I'm not very familiar with all the geography, although becoming more so now because you see the Australian map every night on the news. But I thought, Botany Bay, is that Australia? I think that's Australia. Where is that? So I went to my map, I had a look at where it was, and I thought, crikey, it's right in the middle of where all the fires are. Why is he showing me that? The next thing he showed me was my own area where I live in the UK. Now, I live, I don't know, 40 minutes away from a place called Dorchester. And the thing about Dorchester is it's where I'm just trying to see what sort of time frame we're talking. When did this all happen? I'm not sure how many years ago. Hundreds of years ago anyway. People would be tried, legally tried in Dorchester. And if they were found guilty, they basically had to march towards one of the seaports, which probably round here would have been Weymouth. And they would have marched to the boat, basically, that took them to, guess where, Botany Bay in Australia. So they were convicted in the UK and they were exiled to Botany Bay, or that was one of the main hubs at that particular time. And Metatron also showed me what I refer to as the red post. So I'm going to read you a little thing here which talks about the red post, because there are a number of red posts around this area. And the red posts are said to mark the route the convicts were taken along before being transported to Australia. Another theory is that they marked the location of gibbets. Many convicts were hanged before transportation if they were struggling along the way. These red posts often were a marker or a reference point for illiterate guards who were escorting prisoners from Dorchester prison to Portsmouth, sorry, not Weymouth, to Portsmouth, from where they were transported to Botany Bay, Australia. So I'm shown Botany Bay, which is on fire, and the area around it on fire, and I'm shown an area near to where I live, these red posts, and this route, basically. And what Metatron is asking us to do is to, this is like ceremonial work, and it's not going to resonate to everybody that I'm talking to here, but for those that want to do a little bit of work to try and help, you can do this. You can also do this remotely. You don't have to be in Dorchester or around the sites of these red posts, and equally you don't have to be in Botany Bay. You can send your intention there. I will just tell you where the four places are. Okay, there's one on the A31 trunk road at Anderson between Bear Regis and Wimborne Minster. The others are located at Benville Bridge, Hewood Corner and Pointington. Okay, I'll put those in the description box below. So there's four places where these red posts are, and then we've also got Botany Bay. And what Metatron is asking us to do is to place some crystals, particularly physically, either place clear quartz or energetically send clear quartz to the sites of those 4 red posts and send clear quartz to Botany Bay, because what he's showing me is that it's 2 ends of a snake, and an energetic snake. And this represents suffering, pain, betrayal, wrongdoing, colonial power, abusing its position, ancestral blood, negativity, wrongdoing, basically, you know. What right did this country, the United Kingdom, have to send people to the other side of the world and exile them there, where they were pretty much left to their own devices to sort of, you know, survive? Both ends of this snake are holding damage and pain, and there needs to be a clearance, basically. So that's why you're being asked to send crystalline light and quartz light to these places to clear that. I'm almost being shown it's like a gangway. That's what I'm being shown. I'm also actually being shown, this is quite horrific really, I'm also being shown people being asked to walk the plank. So I don't know whether that actually happened on some of these boats when they left Portsmouth, but it feels as though sometimes people, they didn't make it to Australia, so they were actually forced to walk the plank. So it's like there's like a meridian line that is full of, what I'm actually hearing is fecal matter. Okay, I mean, that's quite a gross description, but that's what I'm being shown. It symbolizes what has to be cleared to and peace and forgiveness and compassion and healing needing to come in between these 2 places that seem to be completely remote and separate from each other, but are holding 2 ends of this energetic snake. Okay? So if that's resonated with you, brilliant. Please help and do that. Okay? I'm just passing the message on that I'm being given. What else? Let me see what else. Okay, the next thing that Metatron shared with me when he was talking to me about the crystals, putting the crystals down, either physically or energetically, thank you for anybody who's doing that, is he's also telling me, and I'm not a scientist, so I don't understand how all this stuff works, so, you know, excuse my ignorance here, but he's talking about how the fires are going to be forming new crystals in their wake, okay, for future generations to find, okay? Not necessarily for us to find, but for future generations to find. So from the fire is regenerative in nature, and we might be talking thousands of years. It's going to be, somehow they form some sort of crystalline substance which is going to revolutionize the world, is what I'm hearing. Hopefully it's not thousands of years. Hopefully, remember, time is not linear. Maybe we can bring this much closer to home, because now I'm being shown the difference between mining for coal and I don't even want to use the word mine. It's like you don't have to mine for it. It's almost as though whatever is formed from the fire, which lies underneath the surface, seems to sort of rise up again at some point. And it's as though this becomes a resource for fuel, for heat, for mankind's needs, is what I'm hearing. There also seems to be a message linked into the carbon that is being either burnt off or created. Again, excuse my lack of science here, but you know, I'm not a science teacher at the end of the day. I'm just being told messages and I'm just passing them on. I've written down here, the fires seem to be also about, again, not immediately, when it starts to die down and when healing has taken place, remember this is a message from a higher perspective, guys, they help our carbon bodies to become more crystalline. So it's as though carbon bodies and carbon earth get burnt away to become crystalline in nature. And light body activation is effectively about the crystalline body coming online. Okay, I keep wanting to keep using the word coming online. It's as though lots of things are coming online. Uluru is coming back online. We are coming back online in terms of our crystalline body. I must just say another image that I've been given of Uluru, whilst I remember it, I'm going to forget it, which is that I feel as though it's a she. I hope I'm not offending anybody there, because, I know, there's a lot of Indigenous people that know a lot more than I do about that sacred site, but I'm feeling she is a she, and she feels like it's a bit like an elder woman. I mean, I'm in my 50s, so I'm menopausal now, and when you're menopausal, you get these hot flushes and they just come over you. And it's like there's just this fire that comes over you, and then it pulses, and then it goes. And that's what I'm seeing Uluru as being. It's like this pulse, this flush, this heat that just is pouring out of her, basically, and is flowing into all of the tributaries around Australia, and going where it has to go. So, and that's quite just an interesting piece of symbolism, you see, because now there's just something flashed on my phone. You see, for me, everything is symbolic. I just see symbolism in everything. There's just something come on here about eating meat. So I was just talking about the crystalline body, wasn't I? So the crystalline body is where we start to eat a more vegetarian-based diet, basically. And our diets will shift as well. I don't want to go on about that too much in this particular video, because I want to just keep focused on the fire. But I've written down here another thing I was shown with regard to, I wanted to say carbon earth burning away to become more crystalline in nature, as we do. It's as though the old carbon version of earth seems to just move off and merge into a different timeline. So it still exists at some level, but it's not necessarily where you and I are inhabiting. And this is the thing about the shift from 3D to 5D Earth, whereby you and I can be inhabiting almost like a different planet. Well, it is. It's a different vibration. It's a different consciousness. It's a different place to the person who might be standing beside us, who is actually still living on a denser planet. And I know this is sounding a bit cuckoo, to maybe some people that are watching this, but I also know that a lot of you are getting what I'm saying, okay? And I think what's happening with Australia and the fires is that we are going to be increasingly, I'm wanting to use the word expected, actually, as light workers, to be able to stretch our minds to see the higher perspective. That doesn't mean that we don't get down on the ground and help our fellow man to sweep up the ashes, pour the water over the burning bush or whatever we're being asked to do. But there are going to be many, many, many people on this planet over the next decade who do not understand what is going on, who just see these events as terrible tragedies, which at one level, of course, they are a terrible tragedy. But at a higher perspective, which is what we are being asked to look at, we're being asked to see that actually there's a reason why it's happening. And long term, it is for the benefit of the earth, okay, the earth and humanity. Talking about earth as well, another interesting thing Metatron was saying to me as well is that we need to start respecting countries more as individual energies. So it's It's an awful thing to say, and I want to take this away from Australia because I don't want it to be insulting to Australians, because it's not. You know, I've never been there, but I'm really looking forward to coming. I've got a high opinion of anybody that lives there. But it's more that sometimes, oh, just spit it out, Amanda, because this can apply to any blinking country on earth. It's almost as though sometimes some of the people who are inhabiting these places, who call themselves British or Australian or I don't know, German or Korean or any other nationality, it's almost as though you think that is what Korea is about, or that is what Australia is about, or that is what Britain is about. Whereas actually Britain or Australia or Korea or America has an energy all of its own, which, to be quite frank, is often higher than the consciousness of some of the people that live upon it for 80, 90, 100 years. Okay, because human beings think that they are the most important thing in all of creation most of the time. We can all be a bit guilty of that, but we're the most important generation, you know, that it's all about us. Really, again, from a higher perspective, you've got to see this as we're just like these little ants basically upon the earth. Earth has got her own consciousness, we know that, but Australia has its own consciousness. Every single country has its own consciousness. And it's almost as though we need to be dipping back into what is that really about? It's never about just the one generation that live upon it at any one period of time. It's never about that. It's about the land. It's about the energy of a place. It's about the ancestors, of course. It's also about the future. It's about future beings that are going to be there. So I know I'm talking a lot of different concepts here, but, you know, welcome to my world, guys. This is just how it works with Metatron. Another point that he's been talking to me about over the last week or so is, I've written down the quote, I think it was Plato that said this, or Socrates, I think it was Plato, "No man is an island." Now, I believe I'm making this on the 2nd of January, and I think that some more help is starting to arrive now. Somebody said that the Canadians have already been there helping. But certainly over the last couple of weeks, it was very apparent watching it from an outsider's perspective that it's like, where is the international help? And I felt into it, and it felt as though there was a reluctance to call on international help. Now, I guess this is from high up in government, not necessarily the man on the street. But for you in Australia, it's quite, maybe you need to hear this as well, which is that the energy that I'm picking up outside of Australia is that many countries want to come in and help you, okay? Many countries want to come in and help you. You've only got to read some of the comments on, you know, newspapers. People are like desperate to want to help. But yet it's like, how can we help is the energy that's coming through. Feeling very sorry for Australia, not in a victim type way, but just in a, we want to help you. It's like a remembrance that actually you are our brothers and sisters. But yet it's as though there is this rigid structure at the top, which is like, no, we can manage it on our own. And I think that seems to tie into this island mentality. And that's what I'm hearing. No man is an island, okay? No one country can do it on their own, going into the energy of New Earth. Unity consciousness is we're all in this together. So it's really interesting because I'm really feeling this stirring of energy from many people around the world, which is like, we're seeing this devastation. We want to help. How can we help? But yet, the other end of the spectrum is like, oh, no, we don't need your help. I'm hoping now that's starting to change because it just appears as though it seems to have been a lot of volunteers that have been helping to quell these fires. And, you know, maybe a moment now in this video just to send acknowledgement to those people who've been battling the fires in their community as volunteer firemen and women, as well as, you know, the professional fire services that do it for a living 9 to 5, as well as just the people who I'm sure have been helping their neighbour in distress, animals in distress. I will say something on, I don't want this to get a political video because then it just moves away from sort of like trying to keep it a higher consciousness, because politics sadly isn't always a higher consciousness at the moment. It will be one day, but at the moment it's not. I will just say when I tune into Scott Morrison, and again, this may change. I'm just talking about today, as of today's energy and as of the last week's energy. The word that I keep getting is an emptiness. It's like there's an emptiness in terms of where there should be action, motivation, thinking outside of the box, bringing people together. I wrote quite a lengthy post on New Year's Eve on my Facebook page and also on my community tab on YouTube, which is still there if you want to go back and look on it, about, you know, for example, the fireworks in Sydney. It's just like an anathema. You know, why are you sending more pollution up into the air and toxic smoke when your country's burning? Not all of the country, I know, but some of it is burning. A good part of it is burning. So it's just like somebody who had a lot of empathy, it wouldn't have gone ahead, basically. So it's at the top, there's just like this emptiness, there's this vacuum. Now, rather than flinging mud and accusations, which I believe he's already starting to get, you know, he's coming for a bit of criticism today, I've just seen on the news. He's gone to sort of, you know, visit some of the sites and people aren't wanting to shake his hand and all this type of stuff. And you can understand that as if you're hurt and you've lost your house, or, you know, God forbid, a person or a pet, or you've seen your farm destroyed. But really, that old saying, you can't fight it right, you can only love it right, is so true. And I'll say that again, you can't fight it right, you can only love it right. So even though at the moment there seems to be this vacuum, this void, this emptiness, where there should be really... Australia deserves better, is all I want to basically say. Let us try to get behind the leader that is there at the moment to be able to rise to be the best that he can be, even if he hasn't been. I know he's been on holiday and, you know, there's a lot that hasn't been good. But let's try and, again, send out some silent prayers that he is able to link into his higher self, and for the divine to flow through him. So it's almost as though he comes back online, okay? I'm wanting to say that. He comes back online and suddenly remembers, actually, God, yes, why haven't we done this? Why haven't we done that? You know, we need to do X, Y, Z, whatever, you know? So it's like he needs to come back online, but it's about pulling in his highest version of himself that he can be in this particular moment. I'm also being told, taking it away from Scott, taking it away from Australia, that this wave of events that will happen over the next decade, I'm not trying to frighten anybody, but it's just, you know, 2020 is a year where we need to get real. 2020 vision, you start to see things with clarity. We were born for these times, that's why we're here, okay? But with the wave that's coming, what Metatron is showing me is that the leaders that we've got in positions of power, with the exception of a few, New Zealand would be one, with the exception of a few, they're going to be found to be seriously wanting. Now, although on one level this is terrible, because it's like, my God, you know, we need a leader for times of challenge. When you can see that something isn't there, then that creates the need for something better. Does that make sense? It's like anything. We're swinging between extremes a lot at the moment, okay? So sometimes you need to see what you don't have to realise what you do want. And as I say, this isn't just about Australia. This is going to be about many other parts of the world. It's as though some of the people that are in positions of power at the moment literally don't have what Metatron is calling the right apparatus. And it's interesting, he's showing me the light body here. It's as though apparatus, which is actually within the body, it's as though they're not fully wired up to be able to do what is required when it's required. Now that might sound all doom and gloom, but it's not, because remember, as light workers, our job can be to say, okay, we need to bring President X, Prime Minister Y, King A, Queen B. We need to bring them back online, okay? How do you do that? It's about asking Spirit, asking the angels to whisper in their ear, basically, tap on their crown, bring them signs and synchronicities like they do for us, which makes us wake up and remember, hold on a minute, there is another untapped part of me that I now can retrieve and bring back online because I need it now. In the same way that Uluru is being brought back online, which temporarily is very uncomfortable because, we've got all this heat and fire and it's just like it's burning away. Once that's done, in the timing that it's meant to happen, you then have, remember what I was saying, you then have this powerhouse, which is steady, balanced, it's in equilibrium, particularly when the Merkaba energy comes in, okay? Remember, the Merkaba is two interlocking pyramids. At the moment, you've just got the one, which is like steam, fire, flow. Once that's come back online and it's steady, okay, it's steady, it's balanced, it's stable, then the other tetrahedron pyramid comes in and makes the Merkaba. And at that moment, I'm just feeling a sense of peace come in, okay? But it's like, we've got to get there first. So Australia needs our prayers, it needs our attention, it needs our energy. I always knew 2020 was going to be a huge year for Australia. I said that last March. I didn't even know why I was saying it. I didn't know why I was talking about this east to west sweep through of energy. But it's starting to make a lot of sense now. I also did say in that video from last March about a period of mourning that would take place in Australia. Now, at the time, I was linking it into, and this also is still to happen, the Republican state coming in, okay? Now, don't want to get too much into this on this video, but, at some point, Australia's going to become the Republic, separate from the Crown, not whilst Queen Elizabeth is still alive, but after that, at some point. And again, national identity is going to change hugely. Now, I tied the period of mourning into that, because some people will mourn that. But I'm now seeing as well that this period of mourning is what's happening now. I also said last March that however Australia managed to purify itself, get ready for this wave that was going to sweep the world, it was going to be via the elements. I did say that. So we can clearly see the element that is playing here is the element of fire. We're going to bring in some help now in terms of what we can do. I'm going to bring in Kali, the goddess, and I'm also want to talk about the dragons. I'm wearing my dragon. But before I do that, I want to just make sure I mention the animals. So it seems as though, the koala in particular has been headline news for all the wrong reasons. And, we've seen the pictures of koalas that have been burnt and killed. And, I think the numbers are just horrendous. And of course, it's not just koalas, but it's as though the koala in particular seems to be coming through. So I'm distracted. There's birds out there again as I was talking about animals. Sorry, the birds are there to say the birds are the oldest species on Earth. I believe I'm right in saying that. And two just flew past my window as I was starting to talk about animals. And I feel as though the birds were giving a message here for the koala and also all of the other animals, which is that however many perish, it feels as though the animals will be able to regenerate at some point, okay? Animals have, and I'm talking about the oversoul of an animal group here, animals have an ability to be able to evolve and to survive. Not every animal, of course, but I'm just talking about in this particular instance. So the koala is not going to be wiped out. The kangaroo is not going to be wiped out. But having said that, the number of deaths is horrific. I thought it'd be interesting to look at what are the qualities of koala, because I feel as though it's almost like that animal in particular seems to be a symbol of the fires. We've seen the pictures. So what is koala all about? And so I went to my deck, which happens to be an Australian animal deck, given to me by two of my Australian friends, so I know will be watching this, and I'm sending you my love. I won't say your name, but you came to the UK a couple of years ago for a workshop with me, and I'm still in contact with them, and I know one of them was talking about having to damp down her home about a week or so ago before Christmas, and it was like, wow, I can't imagine. I just can't imagine having to do that because I'm not there. You know, I haven't gone through this, but I have enormous compassion, and I feel for you very much, anybody that's in that position. But anyway, they bought me this deck of cards, okay? And it's an Australian deck. It's called Animal Dreaming Oracle Cards by Scott Alexander King. And of course there is the koala. So I'm going to read you what the message for koala is, and then I'm going to pull one other animal card to just help us, and then we'll get to Kali and the dragons. So this is koala. This is koala as we like to think of it, healthy and in a nice, natural space. Now what's interesting is the koala is about an inner journey. And it says, if you come across a koala in the wild, you will find it in one of two states: awake, feeding and tending to its young, or dozing in a fetal position, its rump securely wedged into the fork of a tree. You see, even that I think is symbolic. So the koala, you either find it awake or asleep, nothing sort of in between. And there's this duality at play here, isn't there? You know, again, that we're seeing. It says it's believed that the koala slips into an altered state of awareness after ingesting the eucalyptus leaves that form the heart of its diet. Whilst in this state, it is mused that it can enter other realms of reality or journey deep within the inner landscape. Now remember, the koala is giving you this message, okay? So it's saying you can do this as well. Not necessarily eat eucalyptus leaves, but be able to enter other realms, other realities, and journey deep within the inner landscape. Once there, it is thought that the koala gathers knowledge and is able to offer healing in ways not considered physically possible in the tangible world. That little animal, okay, is showing us, is telling us that we have the power also to go on an inner journey into other worlds, other realms, and to bring in healing that isn't physically considered possible. What else? To journey with the koala is to quest for the ancient knowledge and spiritual awakening hidden within our consciousness. Koala represents a sacred journey that is unique for everyone, an expedition that supports the individual's needs and requirements of all people. It's about the journey. It's about taking the journey into a deeper place. Koala's healing journey is an experience of unimaginary proportions, a flight beyond the boundaries of the physical body. There's this feeling of like it's not possible, but it is possible. So that's the koala. That's what it's trying to say to us. I'm going to pull one other animal card, and let's just see if there's another animal that wants to give us a message linked into these fires in Australia. Which other animal would like to give us a message with regard to the fires in Australia? Which other Australian animal would like to give a message regarding these fires? The Black Swan. Okay, the Black Swan. And it's about grace. On the bottom of the pack is the bilby. And it's fear. Okay, well, of course, fear is around. Let's see what the Black Swan wants to say. 30, because that was the one that came through with a message for us. So it talks about the story of the ugly duckling. Everyone knows the tale of the ugly duckling, a child's fable about an abandoned hatchling forced to endure ridicule and rejection, but who ultimately overcame adversity to become a beautiful swan. The parable demonstrates that until you can look inside and find the innate beauty that resides there, you cannot expect anybody else to see your beauty. When you look in the mirror and see infinite beauty looking back, however, others will also recognise true beauty on all levels when they look at you. It's about recognising your true essence and to trust the grace of your own being. Be prepared to see the golden potential in those around you as you relearn to unconditionally love yourself and radiate the inner beauty that yearns to be discovered. A few things. I want to deviate from the official meaning of the card here. To me, this is like Australia at some point. It's not it is the phoenix, but it's also the black swan. It's the story of the ugly duckling is that the ugly duckling grows up to be the most beautiful swan on the whole river. Okay, not saying that Australia is ugly at the moment, but you could look at the scarred landscape and see it as ugly. See it as, obviously it's not what you want to see. You want to see green, abundant fields. You want to see flowing rivers. You want to see verdant, lush landscape. You don't want to see charred, burnt, scarred earth. But yet it feels as though the Black Swan is saying from that state of devastation, desolation, and yes, let's say ugliness, actually will come the greatest beauty. Okay, so that's a rather lovely message. The bilby, the card of fear, is just, I'm just feeling it's just acknowledging the amount of fear that's around the country at the moment, which is what I would expect. It's sort of like a frightening time. So it's about coming together and helping each other, and communities walking side by side through these times. And it's about other parts of the country helping the parts that are affected. So it's not just like, oh, it's happening over there, but my state's okay. It's about, no, physically, do something, okay, to help, to rehabilitate, to, I don't know, whatever it is that's pulled at your hearts, whether it is the animals, maybe. Okay. Right. I'm just going to have some water, guys. A bit of cold tea, and then I'm going to have some water. I chose this mug deliberately because it's got the animals. I am feeling that when the fires start to die down and literally the firefighting energy starts to recede, that policies will change, linked into resource and environmental issues, and it will come about through sheer demand. It's as though a lot of these leaders going forward are literally going to be caught. The only way I can, what I'm being shown is with their pants down, but it's not like it's not sexual wrongdoing. It's literally like they're just unprepared. They just don't know how to handle it. They don't know what to do. And it's like the mood of the public, public demand change. And there is this, I'm being shown a roundabout. It's like the roundabout keeps on spinning. And do you know those old-fashioned roundabouts that used to get in children's parks, and they used to go really round and round, faster and faster, and then sometimes somebody would like fall off because they lost their balance or were too dizzy? Well, some of them are just going to be turfed out, but it will be public mood, public But I'm not seeing violence. I'm just seeing public mood. It's like you have to listen. You know, you're going to be made to listen. That's not just about Scott Morrison, by the way. It's about many, many other leaders in our world. Before I bring in Kali, I want to just show you a crystal. This was given to me by my Australian friends as well. I think it's Mookite. I have this by my bed, actually. I just love it. It's a heart, but it is from Australia, and I've always felt that it just represents the landscape. So I'm wanting to show this because in many ways it looks a bit bleak, doesn't it? It's sort of, you know, it's brown, the sky is grey, because I always see this as the earth and this is the sky. But to me, it's absolutely beautiful. So I feel it's also saying that even in places which are going to look quite devastated on the surface, actually, it's like trying to see the beauty. And the beauty is also going to come from people starting to fully relearn their love for the mother. And by the mother, I mean Mother Earth. Again, it's that thing about sometimes you only realise what you really love when you've lost it. But it isn't permanently lost. The earth is not going to just burn herself up. The earth will regenerate. The earth will survive. Make no mistake about that. The earth will survive. There is nothing that can be done to the earth in terms of, you know, man thinks that it is the one in control. Mother Earth is always the one that is in control, okay? And if she takes her time to regenerate, she'll take her time to regenerate. But regenerate she will. But also it's as though there's this feeling of like when we, I just feel this love for Mother Earth coming back. And I'm seeing many people going back into these devastated forests and lands and lovingly tending to the earth, you know, sweeping away with brushes, you know, cutting back the dead wood, almost I'm seeing somebody in my mind's eye and it's like they're so excited because they've seen like a green shoot in the ground, and it's like they go and they preserve that and they put love into that, and then from that one green shoot, you know, that green shoot reminds all the other shoots underneath the earth that it's okay, you can come back up now, the danger's gone. I'm just feeling people's love for the earth coming back. But it's like a lot of things with human nature. Sometimes we only appreciate it when we have seen what we've lost. Wish it didn't have to be that way, but it just seems to be. Right, I want to bring Kali in. So I did some channeling with Kali and Krishna, actually, a few, I don't know, was it last year? I think it might have been last year. And Kali's energy kept coming to me again over the last few days, as well as Metatron, and I feel like she has something to say about the fire. And I know some of it, I already know what she wants to say. So I'm going to paraphrase it, and then if she wants to say something extra, I will add to it. So what I've written down in terms of Kali, the message was, I've written down the hottest fires of hell are here on earth, not when you die. Stop creating hell on earth and create heaven on earth. Okay, I'm going to repeat that. So this is what Kali says. She says, the hottest fires of hell are here on earth. They're not when you die. Stop creating hell on earth and create heaven on earth. So, I mean, in a way, I don't even know how to expand on that because it just feels so perfect. Let's just bring her in and see what she may have to say to add to that, or it might be a completely different message. So Kali, just give me a moment, guys, to get into this. I'm going to take 3 deep breaths. I'm going to hold the candle as well. Kali. 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 I'm hearing complete and utter silence that follows a firestorm. And she is saying that in the devastation that follows a fire, and in the blackness and in the soot and the ash and the crackle and the brittleness, I am there. I am there to help you rebuild from the ashes. She is asking for a moment of quietness and reflection after the fires stop burning. Life-altering, energy-altering times require not just a back to business normality, but a getting to know a new reality, a new landscape, a new world. She's saying, remember when the snake has shed its skin and the new one is exposed, that new skin is tender. That new skin needs protecting. She's drawing my attention to the animal kingdom that lives underneath the earth, and that is within the what looks on the surface ash and devastation. She's saying if you poke the ash, the destruction, you will find life. Life has not been destroyed, it has purely been transformed and changed. And that transformation is huge and deserves a moment of respect for those that have not survived the fires and the wildlife that has not survived the fires, but also a celebration of what still does exist. The sun does still come up, the moon does still set, the earth still does beat. The tree still will grow. Not all, but some. The forest floor wiped clean will once again be germinated by the healthiest, brightest sap. The birds will still circle. Man will still exist, but be transformed from the experience. The wise man respects the lessons of fire and what she brings in her wake. Rebirth, transformation, the phoenix that will rise and always is assured. Kali feels as though she brings through great strength and determination to face the face the fires, but equally to be there afterwards to clear up. ashes to ashes, dust to dust type energy. But everything is recycled, is what she says. Everything is recycled. Anything else, Carly? I'm wanting to ask her about guidance for people that are in places where fire is threatened. And she is wanting me to say, do not try to fight a force that is bigger than you. So this is almost, she says, this is like a humbling of man. For us to remember our place within the world and the power of the elements. And to not try and, you know, take on the fire. She's not talking about firefighters here. She's talking about the average man who thinks they can just ride it out or it'll be okay. It's like there's an energy of have respect for this force that is now at present, 2nd of January, still so fiercely burning. It's a humbling. But in the humbling is a remembrance of who you really are. And the Godhead. Okay. And now I'm going to bring in, I'm going to use the fire elemental. Which has the dragon energy. So I'm just going to call in the dragons. Fire is part of the very essence of your world and your earth, and has existed from day one. I'm being shown an image of Stone Age man, before that, Neanderthal man, the creation of fire. There's a message along the lines of something I'm being shown like a cave with a fire in it. And the fire, obviously, when man had a much simpler life, was just about warmth and about comfort and about cooking. And it's as though as our needs have grown as a species and we've become excessive in what we want, as a collective, this is worldwide, as a collective, the insatiable appetite for more and more and more. It's as though this force that was given just as something for fuel. Sorry, battery died. This fire that was... It's just so interesting. Every time my battery... Those of you that watch me all the time, you see this. Every video, it seems to be that the battery becomes exhausted at the moment that I'm talking about something becoming exhausted. It's not me at this particular moment. It's like as though we've exhausted the resources of Earth. We were given this ability to be able to heat our homes and keep ourselves warm and cook our food, but then our demands and our needs became more and more and more. Modern man, take it away from Australia, this is just us as a collective, species, human beings. And it's as though it's all got out of control, and the fire just feels as though it symbolises that as well. Remember, this is higher perspective message. Okay, it's higher perspective message. So for the flames to die down as well, it's as though we have to be humbled as a species and remember our place. Which, yes, we are God. But the thing about God, if you think about Jesus Christ was a humble man. Every time I channel Christ, he just comes in as this humble servant. The complete contrast to a lot of humanity that just wants more and more and more and more. Right, dragons. As I reach for my water, let's bring in the water dragons. I'm seeing them as I drink the water. Great big huge water dragons in the seas. Oh my God, they're vast and they can fly. They live in both water and air. They live most of the time in the water, but they are able to, for brief periods, come up and fly and effectively disperse the water, which they are holding. And they look as though it's like they've got a belly a bit like a whale, because whales have got huge bellies. So these water dragons have got large bellies, which are like reservoirs of water. And because they live in the water, they take as much water as they can in, and somehow they fly. Don't ask me how they fly, but somehow I'm seeing they fly. They're able to teletransport, might be a better way to put it. They teletransport to where they're needed to be, and it literally is. It's just like it's like this water. Let me just spray the water elemental. It's like this water just comes out of their mouth, and rather than them breathing fire or spouting fire from their mouth, they breathe water. Water comes out of their mouth, and the water just is able to go over a whole swathe of land, a whole island, a whole community, a whole town. You can also call on the water dragons to douse your own homes as well, energetically with water. But equally, we're needing to bring them into all of these parts of Australia that are under fire at the moment. So that whole southwest corner and anywhere else that is affected, just bringing in the energy of water and the water dragons, bringing in the coolness. Because this smells, I've got like a minty, cool smell in the room, just bringing in the water dragons where they're needed. And every single one of you can do that. It's a bit like calling in the angels. The first rule of the universe is that we have free will as a species. So you have to ask. You have to ask the angels for help. You have to ask the dragons for help. So you need to be asking the water dragons for help. And my God, they're huge. They are just mammoth beasts, I'm wanting to call them. And they're incredible. They are just incredible. Let's just take a moment just to connect to them as a group. So let's just, I want you just to connect into the water dragon that wants to show itself to you. Note its size. Note its colour. The one I'm seeing has got almost like a slightly translucent-y, metallic-y, silvery, blue, green type colour to it. It's got scales on its back. It's got a very long neck, and the very long neck is because the water in its belly then comes up the long neck, and it's able to disperse it from a very great height wherever it needs to go. The water is just dispersed. They look a bit like, I'm being shown Loch Ness. You know, there's the monster of Loch Ness supposedly. Well, it's a water dragon. That's what it is. So that's the one I'm being shown, which is sort of around my particular part of the world. But you know, Nessie can be sent to Australia. Any of them can be sent wherever they can teletransport, is what I'm hearing. It doesn't matter where they are. They might be in the depths of the North Sea, the Atlantic Ocean, the Indian Ocean. They're all on standby. And it's the same thing that I was saying earlier about no man is an island. It also means that people in Australia need to call in the help for them as well. Okay. Okay. Well, I've gone really quite cool now. So I hope I'm sending in some cool energy to you all in Australia. Right, guys, I think probably we're nearing the end here. I'm just going to see if there's anything else that needs to be said here. I just want to connect to the water elemental again. Oh God. Okay, well this is a political thing to say, but I'm going to say it because I've been given it. When you get information just comes in from nowhere like that, it's spirit given. I sprayed the water elemental, and straight away I was shown Dr. Masaru Emoto. Messages from water. If you don't know Dr. Masaru Emoto, his work, look it up, it's fascinating. He talks about water has a consciousness. The water around Australia is highly patrolled and protected from people who are trying to immigrate in. And I'm seeing the boats that are trying to keep people out, okay? There's a very tough immigration policy in Australia. And I'm seeing that the waters around Australia are holding an energy of keep out, keep away. It's almost like a big dam. It's like keep away. And it's almost as though the water is holding an energy of you're not welcome, okay? You're not welcome. The thing is, when you say anything to something like water or yourself or anything, the universe just hears it as the message you give it. So the water energy is saying you're not welcome. The water around Australia has got the energy of unwelcome, okay? So it's like it's heard that, and it's feeling as though it's unwelcome over the whole of the country, because the consciousness doesn't understand. It's just water as an energy around Australia. It's unwelcome because you're unwelcome. So the water's holding the energy of like unwelcomeness. I'm really feeling this strongly. So it's like anybody that's in Australia who understands what I'm saying here and who's worked with the energy of water ceremonies and Dr. Masaru Emoto, please do some water ceremony work around your beaches, your rivers, and put the energy into the water of we welcome you. Okay, we welcome you. Or just welcome. You know, don't get political about it. We don't want to get into all of that because that's just bringing in a lower energy again. We're trying to keep the energy high here. Just the word welcome. I mean, I've got Masaru Emoto's cards here. Let's just pull one. Might be interesting to see what we get. I don't believe he ever did photograph a crystal with the word welcome. Maybe he did. I mean, if he did, that would be brilliant. You could actually put that, you could use that in any ceremonial work. But anyway, I'm just going to pull a water crystal card for Australia. And then we will say goodbye. Okay, Dr. Masaru Emoto, who is one of my guides. Very blessed to work with him. Dr. Masaru Emoto, please help us here. There is an absence of water in Australia. Dr. Emoto always taught that water is a big teacher. So where there is drought and where there is no water, there are lessons there. Okay, there is a lack of something. Well, we've got summer. Okay, we've got the card of summer. You're in your summer now. What goes with summer then? Thank you. Hope. Okay. Well, we've got the energy of hope. So in summer, even though in the high season with all this fire, there is hope for water to come. But it's as though he's saying you almost have to put it into the present moment. Well, you do have to put it into the present moment, which is even with the fires raging, you have to be thanking Spirit for bringing water to the earth, to that part of the earth, to where it's needed. You know, it's the manifestation work, that it's the things that we've learned how to do in other parts of our spiritual practice. You know, we know that, you know, if want isn't quite the right word, if we desire something that is for our highest good, it's important to imagine that it's happening right now in this present moment, not in 10 years down the line. The universe doesn't understand that. It'll bring you it 10 years down the line. It's like, no, I'm feeling it right now, what it is that I'm desiring or wanting. You know, it's like I can taste it, I can smell it, I can feel it. It's the same now with water. It's like, thank you for bringing the rains. Thank you for bringing the waters in summer. Okay, it's not in winter, it's in summer. I'm also hearing the Ho'oponopono prayer, I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you, thank you, which is to anything that is happening in our world, whether it's a big tragedy, a big event, or whether it's something quite minor that's just happened in our own life, you know, before breakfast. It's like, if there's something that we're meant to be learning from it, I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you, thank you. Okay. You know, I'm understanding that this is about, let's just go back. I've been talking for a while now. It's about lots of things coming back online. It's about Uluru coming back online. It's about the solar plexus chakra of the earth coming back online. But I'm also seeing the other lower chakras, the sacral and the base chakra as well. It's about the creation of this golden Merkaba in the centre of Australia, which is going to ripple out energy across the whole world over the next decade. But I'm wanting to sort of say this year. It's like everything's escalating. It's about us being humbled by the power of nature and the elements. It's about the elements trying to get themselves back in balance. It's about a purging of the old. It's about healing of the stain and of the of ancestral damage that's been done to the Aboriginal people as well. Okay. Also, it's about clearing that snake line that I was talking about in terms of UK and Australia. The thing about convicts, sending convicts there. It's like, you know, dumping people on the other side of the world because we didn't want them. You know, that's a horrible, that all needs to be cleared. I mean, I don't know what's going on around this area. I mean, I don't want to dream anything in for the UK, but I think we will get flooding at some point, you know, not necessarily tomorrow, not necessarily this week, but I think this side of the globe, we're going to be experiencing more of the water phenomenon. But really, it's just the elements trying to balance themselves out, and the elements trying to purge and heal what no longer can be tolerated upon the earth. And then we've also got the messages that these animals are giving us, the koala, the black swan, you know. So, and then Kali bringing through her energy of just strength and determination. Wow. I'm going to pull an Ascended Master card, and then I'm going to go and get this uploaded. Ascended Master, anybody else offering help? I mean, I'm sure there's many of them offering help. Let's just see who wants to come through. Got Metatron, we've got Kali, we've got Christ who's been here as well. We've got the animal energies, we've got the energies of the elders, the ancestors, we've got Kuan Yin, yeah, I thought so. Kuan Yin, care and compassion, choose to be love, do what is right for everyone involved, offer a helping hand. Kuan Yin. The Divine Feminine, another manifestation of the Divine Feminine energy. I hadn't talked about that. I mean, I've talked about it in virtually every other video I've done recently. This is also about a rebirth for the Divine Feminine age. It's clearing away the old patriarchal energy. And that's also why sometimes when a patriarchal energy may still be in control somewhere, it's like they're not able to respond in the way that the Divine Feminine can and will. That doesn't mean it's just about women. Men can hold a Divine Feminine energy, of course. So Kuan Yin coming in. I'm just going to end with her little message. What does she want to say? Lovely colours. Element OP. Kuan Yin. Let's put her card up at the end. Choose to be, I've read that. Kuan Yin is she's the goddess of mercy, compassion and love. She's acknowledged in Buddhism and the traditions of China. She goes beyond religion and warms the heart of all who call on her. She encourages people to offer care, forgiveness and compassion to themselves and others. Compassion is about recognizing the spirit in others. It's about seeing that they come from the same source as you do. Yeah. We are all one. is what she's wanting to remind us. And I love actually the fact that of all the Ascended Masters in the deck I could have chosen, which is the Kyle Gray Keepers of the Light deck, of course it is an Eastern energy, Kuan Yin, associated very much with the East. And we're talking about the East. We're talking about this new wave of consciousness needs to come from the East to the West. And why is it coming from East to the West? Because it can't come the other way. The West is too stuck. The East is where it births and it moves over. Kuan Yin. It's a lovely place to stop. I'm going to leave it there, guys. I'm tired now myself. So thank you for listening. Thank you if you felt called to do any of the work that I've been inviting you to do, whether it be planting crystals in Botany Bay or around those 4 spots in the UK, or doing it energetically, doing water ceremonies. Remember that word welcome. You don't even have to put you don't have to put anything with welcome. Welcome is just an energy of its own. Welcome. You know, we welcome the rain. We welcome the water element. The oceans around Australia as well. Welcome. No man is an island. It's the truth. Much love. Take care, everybody. I'm back soon. Bye for now.